All right, seventh graders, let's wrap up our unit on area and area of composite figures today. So here we have area of a composite figure. On the board is a grid composite figure. Composite again means that it's made up of more than one shape. So some of you right now are looking at it going, that's not a shape that I know. It's not a square. It's not a rectangle. So you're looking, trying to figure out what it is. Well, it's made up of all kinds of little shapes. So what I did is I cut it up, and I'm going to show you in a moment how I can take it apart. We want to find the area. Remember, the area is the inside, not filling it up, but it's a flat. It's on a plane. So we're trying to figure out how many squares there are here. Now, a lot of people get this one right without having to do a lot of math. They just count the squares, basically, and that works out really well, especially if you have full squares. We get a little bit of trouble when you have half squares, but in this case, if they're exactly half squares, it's just half a square. So two halves would be a whole, and you just keep going. So most people on a test or a quiz would probably just do that. I'm going to show you the math way to do it, though, to make sure you're right. So if you count squares, you would end up with the right answer, but I'm going to show you the other way also, in case they don't give you squares, or if it's a grid, or if it's not a grid, or if it's something else you need. The first thing I'm going to do is try to figure out what shapes this is made up of. I noticed this guy right here right away. This is a rectangle. I noticed this is a triangle. This one, another triangle. And finally, the big rectangle. So if I take that apart, the composite figure, we go from here. Now, if you know a little bit about area formulas, this should be pretty easy. So area of a rectangle is base times height. So it's 2 across, 3 up. 3 times 2 gives me 6. Or I could count them, right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. This one would be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 across, times 3 up. 7 times 3, 21. This one is a triangle. Remember, triangles are like rectangles cut in half. So we're going to go base times height divided by 2. So if I go 3 times 3, that'd be 9. 9 divided by 2, 4.5. And you're thinking, well, how does that work? Well, look, 1, 2, 3. These two together would be 4. And there's a half, 4.5. And then this little triangle guy, we got 2 times 2, which is 4. 4 divided by 2, it would be 2. So now if I add all those together, I'll get my answer. So I got 21, 27, 28, 29, 30, 31, 32, 33, and a half. So pretty easy as you go through there. 33 and a half, not too bad. And it looks pretty good as you go through. When you start solving these, if they give you a grid, you can count if you want, or you can just leave it as it goes and separate it out into shapes like I did. Let's get rid of these real quick. And let's do a little bit trickier one. How about we do this one? So this one right here is like a basketball lane. You could probably envision, if you're a basketball person, there'd be a hoop here, a free throw line, and so on to the top of the key, the elbows, things like that. So if we separate this one out, it looks to me like we have a rectangle right here and a semicircle. It's a full circle inside, but we can't count that twice, or else we'll have too big of a figure. So if you have a rectangle, rectangles again are easy. Base times height. So if I do base times height for my rectangle, it's 19 times 12. So if you have a calculator, that's pretty easy to poke in. You just go 19 times 12, and according to this fancy problem, let's try it on my calculator. How about 19 times 12, 228 is what I got. We got something similar. So what I do, if I can draw on it, I'll write it right inside there. If I can't draw on it, if it's a computer or something, I'll use scratch paper. So I'm just going to put my 228 right here. That way I know that whole part's done and I'm finished with it. But now we got the semicircle. So we're going to have to start using some of this stuff we talked about the other day. So we do a semicircle. Well, the area of a circle is pi times radius squared. So a semicircle would be pi times radius squared divided by 2. Kind of like the triangle thing we just talked about. So if we look at it, you're like, yeah, but there's no number here. But it's similar to this side. So if that's 12, then this is 12. So the diameter is 12. But I only want the radius. I want half. So half of 12 would be 6. So I have 6 for my radius. Let's set up the formula. So I have pi times radius squared. Pi, we're going to use 3.14. So I'm going to go like this. Some of you have a pi button and you like that better. I guess I just prefer the decimal. My radius that I know isn't 12. Remember, it's half, so it'd be 6. And I want to square it like that. So I'm going to start out and I'm going to go 6 times 6. So I'm going to square it. 36. Common error, don't say it's 12. Remember, it's 6 times 6, not 6 times 2. So I have 36 times 3.14. Some people might leave that as 36 pi and just call it. I think you're better off to actually solve it here in this case. So if I were to solve this, I end up with 3.14 times 36. I got 113.4. But that's for the whole circle. I don't want the whole circle. So this is for an entire circle. 113 point, oh, sorry, 04. 04. But I want to divide it in half because I only want this part of the circle right here. So I'm going to divide this by 2. Now it's a decimal division. You can do it on the board. You can do it long division. That's fine. I'm going to just divide it with a calculator. 56.52. So this part right here is 56.52. Now when I do that, I want to add up both parts because it's composite, it's composed, it's made up of more than one figure. So I'm going to add that together. So I have 56.52 still saved in my calculator. I'm going to add it to the 228 that I have, and I get 284.52. 282. Oh, sorry, 284.52. The label they gave me was feet. So I'm going to leave it as feet. And it's the inside. It's square feet. So I'm going to put a little 2 up here. Square feet. So this would be a composite figure made up of more than one. Sometimes they'll give you a grid. Sometimes they won't. This had no grid. You could just solve it. You could split it up. If you really want to cut it out, you can redraw it. However you need to do it to make it work for you. So this would be area of a composite figure. I'll give you a few examples online so you can practice. And then you should be set on these. We'll have a little review coming up tomorrow.